Welcome to a new daily top Askreddit video. Today's topic. Serious, have you ever known someone who wholeheartedly believed that they were wolfky / a vampire / an elf / had special powers, and couldn't handle the reality that they weren't when confronted? What happened to them? Attention. Serious, tag notice. Jokes, puns, and off-topic comments are not permitted in any comment, parent or child. Parent comments that aren't from the target group will be removed, along with their child replies. Report comments that violate these rules. Posts that have few relevant answers within the first hour, and posts that are not appropriate for the serious tag will be removed. Consider doing a NOMA request instead. Thanks for your cooperation and enjoy the discussion. I am a bot, and this action was performed automatically. Please contact the moderators of this subreddit if you have any questions or concerns. My best friend in high school and my first 2 years of college genuinely believed that she could not only speak to forestry, but that she was a wingless fairy. She would oftentimes, when we went walking her dogs, lean to trees and translate for me what the rustling of nature spoke of. She also would scribble in her books what she called new alchemy, violently scribbled circles and vodge shapes she believed held magical and fairy magic through her own powers. We had a falling out after a few years, after she moved to the other side of the country to be with her grandmother. We started talking about a few months ago and I found out she had been diagnosed with schizophrenia. She is currently on 2 types of medication and she told me her walks are depressingly quiet now. That made me sad. I hope she finds a balance between the 2 worlds. Removed. And that's the saddest I'm gonna be today. Thanks Reddit. Not exactly the same as otherky, but very much in the vein of the question in terms of total reality denial. I know someone who totally, wholeheartedly, believes that they are a Jedi Master. Our families go way back, so I happen to know other kids were merciless to him all through childhood. He's always had problems, though. Kind of one of those people you can feel aren't quite right but not exactly why. He decided he was a Jedi Master one day. Just, like, out of the blue. Credit where credit is due, he went all the way with it. Became a minor nerd celebrity for a while. At first when people challenged the Jedi thing, why don't you have powers then? He'd say Jedi is a mindset not a power, or sometimes you don't know the powers I may have, and try to play it off like a joke, but the dude was 100% serious. If you pushed he would outright melt down with tears and screaming. Apparently his parents financially supported him pretty much entirely, until he, and this part confuses the crap out of me, got married and had a kid while still insisting on the Jedi thing. After that the wife supported him. Eventually he got tired of that and left his family to take off with a teenager he met at a convention. That's when we cut ties with him. You can be a Jedi all you want, but cutting and leaving your kid is some Sith Lord shit. How TF am I single and these people getting married and having kids? Maybe there are some powers there. Because the people marrying guys like that are probably not the kinds of people you're wanting to be dating. Removed. Someone who totally, wholeheartedly, believes that they are a Jedi Master. Oh holy hell, I knew someone just like this. Said he could predict the future long enough to dodge anything thrown at him, fists included. Lost it with him one day after he was trying to claim that my dog hated me. Said he could read her feelings and that she wants to run away and leave me for a nice family. After one of his "your dog hates you" tirades, I decked him across the jaw. One hell of a royal haymaker that, had he any actual Jedi powers, he could have easily avoided. I ground that fact into him for weeks on end, almost relentlessly, due to his refusal to apologize for shit-talking my dog and I. Eventually he caved and admitted that he was full of shit, out loud, and in a torrent of tears and vicious sobbing. My dog loved me till the day she died. She was a good girl. Her name was Sheila. Search your feelings. You know it to be true. If the kind ends up a Star Wars fan, there might be a really weird "I am your father" moment. My cousin. She 100% believed she was a werewolf. She was finally diagnosed with schizophrenia and bipolar years ago. She's doing a lot better now. There's a theory that some reports of werewolves and monsters are because people were unable to comprehend the illness they had. They would have a sense of self and an awareness that something was wrong, but being unable to diagnose themselves would concoct a monster as being ill. It would make sense finally why they were changing so. Glad she's better. Went to school with a girl who acted like a dog. barked, panted, pawed at people. In class she would reply normally but then bark at the end. This went on for 3 years. Decided to look her up on FB and she has a good job and seems normal. Teenagers are fucking weird. Was it an actual bark sound or was she like Thomas Jefferson was the 3rd president? Oh, and woof. She went fully into character. She started out with pitiful yipes and later mimicked a dog's bark pretty accurately. It was mildly terrifying. I forgot to mention she'd crawl on all 4 and would jump up against friends with her 2 front paws. I dated a girl somewhat like this in high school. She actually worked with a dog rescue and spent a lot of time around dogs. Outwardly normal and pretty reserved, but in private she did all of this, including licking my face like a dog. She grew out of it quickly, but it was a weird year. Well, were you into it? Yes, unfortunately. He claimed to have an invisible tail and had a dream in which a great mother wolf revealed to him that he had the soul of a wolf. So he did what any sane person would do and started buying furs to masturbate onto. He showed me eBay links via Facebook and explained that it's one of the only 2 ways that he can get off, as well as started fucking dogs, or so he claimed. Last I heard, he's in Alaska working with sled dogs all the while he's engaged to a woman who he refuses to have sex with because human sex is disgusting to him. I need a drink just fucking writing that. Somebody might want to check on those dogs. It's a terrifying thought. Not quite this extreme, but a few months ago I met a homeless guy on the side of the road. He was walking back towards a camp he'd set up near a railroad track that crosses the busiest road in our city. Started talking about how he ended up there and stuff. He was pretty young and very obviously gay, so I figured religious parents threw him out or something. Nope. Apparently his family took a trip to an Indian casino a few months earlier, and he somehow ended up in some kind of tribe meeting where one of their elders told him he had the blood of a wolf. So he ran away from home the next day, stole a bunch of wolf-themed shit from a convenience store, and he's hitchhiking from like Oregon or some shit to some Indian event in Virginia. This was in India. Seemed to be pretty happy about his situation at least. I hope he got whatever the fuck he was looking for. Wow, he took that and just ran right with it. I once dated a girl who would wear a bell around her neck and act like a cat. Over time her self-esteem improved and she just sort of grew out of it without me saying anything or pressuring her. One day the bell was just a ribbon, and then she stopped wearing the ribbon. At least in the case of high schoolers who act like this, I would say in 90% of people it really is just a phase in a growing kid's search for identity and community. These days when the internet is always there for you, there are infinite communities for people of all sorts. When you're an angsty teen who doesn't know who they are yet, it's easy to latch onto an accepting community and identify with them because they accept you, even if that's not really who you are. I mean, that's how I got sucked into the friend group I had in high school, and it's why I wasted so much time on Gayer Online back in the day. Gayer Online, wow, I also wasted a massive amount of time on that site. I forgot about that until now. I was friends with this guy in middle/high school who believed he was a dragon. Don't blame the guy either, since he has a super Christian mother and his father had died of a sudden heart attack right before he entered high school. I feel kinda guilty suddenly dropping him since he was being a pedophile, but then again, I've been a bit more happy now that I've cut ties with him. I once dated a girl who would wear a bell around her neck and act like a cat. I too went to community college. Oh shit, are we sharing community college weirdos now? There's this one girl I see occasionally walking around who wears really flowy black dresses and curly white horns every single day. Unfortunately, yes. I met a girl at a very young age while going to church. Her family was deeply religious, but in a messed up way. So we dated off and on, and after high school hit it off pretty strong. She honestly believed she was a fairy. She would get faced with the reality of not being a fairy and completely shut down, sometimes even attempting suicide. Found out later she has really bad schizophrenia and had to get away from her after she discovered drugs, and I couldn't help her anymore. That's really sad. I met a guy who was supposedly pretty close to the level in Scientology where you're supposed to develop powers like telepathy and stuff. Not sure what became of him. You'd think that once people reached this level and didn't have powers they'd quit, but brainwashing. Removed. I think some of it is the sunken cost fallacy, and some of it is gaslighting. The church might say you didn't do something right, or your conviction isn't strong enough. If you aren't getting what you thought you would out of it, you are doing it wrong. That sort of thing. Sometimes people follow the carrot way too long, thinking the truth is just around the next corner. I'm sure that imposter syndrome plays into it as well. Better not tell anyone I'm not psychic, or they'll revoke my status and I'll lose all that very expensive progress. Except in this case they really are imposters, so I'm not sure if the term imposter syndrome applies. Yeah. They had really severe childhood abuse / trauma to contend with, and coped with it by believing they were psychic. We met in like junior high when they still believed this. Eventually, they realized that they weren't entirely wrong, just a little bit misdirected. They are a deeply empathic person who, thanks to their abuse history, is very good at reading facial expressions, body language, etc. They are actually a really wonderful person, and ended up becoming a social worker and volunteer at a domestic violence shelter, where all of the qualities that made them a good psychic make them great at helping others who are going through a difficult time. I hope this gets pushed to the top. A lot of kids like this really do come from traumatic upbringings that aren't always super obvious. Pairing a tumultuous household and bullying at school can be extremely difficult to cope with, and a lot of kids find comfort in identifying with fantasy characters or species or who are also traumatized. Think of a werewolf who has to hide from the public because he / she is a danger, or fairies who are the last of their kind, etc. This story is so wonderful, though. There are a lot of ways that people can learn to cope with and then utilize their past to benefit the world in some way. Unfortunately, those things usually take time, healing, and often therapy as well. If you still talk to this person, please let them know that this internet stranger is extremely proud.